Welcome back, or if it's your first time, I'm glad to have you here. I'm Matt Fendora, and you're tuned in to the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast, where we journey together toward becoming the best version of ourselves. Using mind, body, heart, and spirit as the anchors of our podcast, join me as we set sail into the depths of self-discovery, unraveling the interconnected layers that shape our growth. If you resonate with today's conversation, consider subscribing to the podcast. Your support means the world to us and ensures you never miss an empowering episode. Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast, a podcast all about being the best version of yourself through mind, body, heart, and spirit. Today, I am joined by Courtney McPherson. Courtney was born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa, but immigrated to Portugal 3 years ago. Most of her life, she kept a journal writing out movie scripts, poems, songs in her spare time. She wanted to be a scriptwriter, and after assisting a film company as a runner, she was offered an internship to attend the Cannes Film Festival in 2011. After some time, she realized the film industry wasn't for her, but it led her to the yachting industry. While she was on this journey, she began observing the habits and routines of the wealthy, the rich, and the famous. Sometimes she still wonders if Samuel L. Jackson has stuck to the same morning routine as he did when he was a guest on the yacht she worked on. While she was working on yachts, her writing still called out to her. She also had her own personal development blog. What are some of Courtney's proudest accomplishments? She wrote a book that is still sold on Amazon. It's The Guide to Yachting Industry for South Africans. She received an internship to the Cannes Film Festival and was recognized for having the best social media reach during the festival. It was 2011, and she was super active on Twitter. Scuba diving with bull sharks in Thailand, and became a registered Hatha yoga teacher. What makes her heart sing? That first coffee in the morning, hugging her 2 children and husband, reading a personal development book, a clean and tidy home, working on her blog, and watching the sunset over the ocean. Without further ado, here's Courtney. How are you doing today, Courtney?
Hi, Matt. I'm great, thanks. Thank you for having me.
It's fantastic to have you on here. I love the story that you have because it's not linear, which is one of the greatest things that I think we can have as just human beings is our life takes us in so many different directions, and we're able to take those experiences and really find out who we are and what we love and what we're passionate about.
Yeah, that's so true. I actually have thought of my life as more of a circle. So definitely not linear because, yeah, left school and then I always enjoyed writing and then went into film, went into yachting, and now I'm back to writing, even though I've done it my whole life. It started as a career that I really wanted to do, script writing. And now we're full circle where I'm writing again, but not so much for scripts.
Speaking of your writing, and when did you first find that connection with writing? And at what point did you decide that you wanted to use your writing to become a script writer?
I have been writing for my whole life. I've always kept a journal, and I really wish I really kept those journals after all these years. But I'd be so honest in my journal, and then I'd go throw them in a bin so no one would read them. Now I keep my journals. But yeah, writing has always been a part of my life. Then I wrote songs, and my now best friend still teases me because she knows the song off by heart still that I wrote when we were like 11 years old. So sometimes she sings that to me now in our 30s, and it's absolutely terrible. But then I always did drama during my school years and loved theatre, loved drama. I knew I didn't want to become an actress though, so it just felt natural that I enjoyed writing to be more of a script writer. I'd also make up little TV shows in my spare time and write them down. And then, yeah, I left school thinking I'm going to be a script writer in the film industry. And as you touched on, I realized actually I don't enjoy the film industry. There's way too many ups and downs. I love routine, and there's none of that in the film industry whatsoever. I remember standing in Amsterdam in the freezing cold at 3 in the morning, bringing blankets to all the actresses. And in between shoot when they were shooting, and I just thought, wow, I would love to be in bed right now, not 3 in the morning on these freezing streets. So yeah, the film industry wasn't quite for me. Um, but here we are with my blog, my personal development blog, which I absolutely love, and also ghostwriting for the yachting industry.
When you first began journaling, did you have a set, because you said you love routine so much, did you have a set routine or a set way that you journaled, or was it all just, hey, I just need to release my thoughts. I'm just gonna go sit here in the corner and write.
Yeah, it was more like that. Just releasing my thoughts, just writing, just whatever came out, write it down. It really helped to organize my thoughts, clear them up. I really found a lot of benefit with journaling, and I still do to this day. If I ever think, I try to journal every day, but now with two kids, it's definitely trickier. But I try, even if it's just 5 minutes, to sit down and organize my thoughts. And I really believe that there's no greater return on investment than with having a journaling habit. When I turned 30 and I just had my second child, I sat down with myself and my journal and just wrote for almost 3 hours, trying to figure out what I wanted the next decade to bring and how I was going to actually be able to spend time with my daughter, but also do something that I love. I was in yachting crew recruitment at the time. And as much as I love the yachting industry, recruitment is very busy. It's a full-on target-driven business. So you have to be on top of your game every single day. And work doesn't end because you can just keep going through applications, keep getting references, and just sending awesome candidates 24/7, to try get the placement. And I almost burnt out doing that with my first child. And now I'd had my second baby. I was still in yachting crew recruitment, and I thought, no, I need to make some changes. So I ended up changing my whole career path just with a couple of hours journaling. And that is why I believe that it is one of the best return on investments you can do for yourself in your life.
Do you think that the journaling is what helped you through the burnout process?
Definitely, I would say so. It really helps to see what am I missing in my day? What can I add to my day? What can I remove from my day? And how can I make a change? The just being a parent, but even not being a parent, there's just so many distractions in our day, and so many things that need our attention, that if you don't intentionally take some time out of your day to sit down with yourself and your thoughts, you actually won't come up with any solutions to your very unique situation. So journaling really did help with that.
I think one thing on top of that is you might actually come up with a solution, but it stays in your head, and then an hour later it's gone because you didn't actually either A, put it into action, or B, write it down. So it's just poof, gone.
Exactly. I also believe that. I sometimes think, oh, I don't need to write it down because, I've got it in my head. But then I'll write it down, and I actually don't need to go look at it, what I've written down. It was literally just as you said, that action of writing just engraves it into your mind a little bit deeper than just thinking the thoughts. So even if you don't need to go back and see what you've written, you won't forget it just because you've written it down.
We just get in this mindset that, oh, I'll remember it. When you write it down, you're like, oh, I didn't need to write it down. I just remember it. And so you stop writing it down, but you don't realize like the process of better remembering it was writing it down.
That is exactly exactly how I feel.
So when you were working with the Cannes Film Festival as an intern, did you do any writing or was it just working as a runner?
I did, I just kind of took it upon myself to open up a Twitter account. So I was writing, what was it, 140 characters. So that was pretty much it. So it wasn't so much, it was more of a marketing internship that I received at the Cannes Film Festival. We were networking with other film companies, directors, helping to promote the Funny How Films, which was the company that I was working for. So it was mainly a lot of networking, but at the time, I was actually the only one or one of the very few using Twitter. So that would be the only writing I did, but I got some great feedback with that. Yeah, I was noted as having the best social media reach during the festival, which I can't believe because it was pretty effortless. But I think, you know what, if you're in the right place at the right time and
Mhm.
everyone's in film and you're the only one on Twitter, then when it's still kind of new, people aren't really using it that much. So if you're the only one doing something, you're probably going to get noticed for that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now you would have to work 100 times, 1,000 times harder to get that kind of feedback.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered how the this goes, but if I'm not mistaken, it's something like practice plus opportunity equals luck. And so you have to put in those reps and, wait for that opportunity. And when the opportunity arises, you're ready. And because you're ready, everybody else is going to see that as you're lucky.
Exactly, exactly. I also think about that, and something similar is if you just put yourself out there, you increase your luck surface area, which I felt like, with chatting to you on this podcast, that was a new thing for me. I just started putting myself out there on LinkedIn, and doors have been opening for me, and it's all about increasing my luck surface area. So I think people need to, even cringe a little bit and just click post or do whatever they have to do to just put themselves out there a little bit because yeah, it's going to open doors and you're really holding yourself back if you don't show who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
What was it like working at the Cannes Film Festival? How long did you do that for?
So that was 2 weeks. It was amazing. I was very lucky. So we were told before the internship, bring some nice dresses because you're going to be going to some events. So after work, there's all happy hours and try see if you can go meet some people at these events to network. So, anyways, I had some nice dresses with me, and yeah, I've actually got a very funny story about the Cannes Film Festival. And your question has sent me off on a bit of a tangent, but it's just so crazy because I probably got a taste of success when it comes to the film industry. And I received that so quickly, and I knew that actually that is not what I wanted. So that's why it was such an easy decision for me to say that I didn't want to be a part of the film industry. Um, but I actually snuck in to an event. I didn't know that it was such an important event, but literally I could access the parking lot area because I was an intern and I was dressed to the nines, entered this parking lot area and just acted confident and pretty much, I don't know how many details I should give here. I don't want to get in trouble, even though it was like 13 years ago. But I literally was acting like I was meant to be there and ended up in this parking lot seeing that there was all these black Renault vehicles with numbers on them saying, and there was a bunch of guys starting to look at me like, why is this girl in a dress in the parking lot? So I just thought quickly and I said, where's chauffeur number 31? And this guy jumps out of the crowd and he says, oui, madame. And he actually, I said, I've been told to make another round to the red carpet because the film crew wasn't there when I got out of the vehicle. And he's like, oh, so sorry, let's go. So he literally took me in the car and dropped me off at the red carpet. And I waited for him to open the door for me and everything. And he came and opened the door. And I stepped out and just walked on the red carpet. And the way the Cannes Film Festival is set up is if you make it into pretty much one event, it's connected, whether it's like physically connected or, you know, by paths leading you to the next location and event. So anyways, I walked onto the red carpet, and I ended up also walking into this big banquet hall. And there's like all these beautiful round tables, and I've arrived late. You know, people are already halfway through eating. And I thought, you know, there's every seat has a reservation. I don't know where to sit, but I need to really act like I know what I'm doing and I'm meant to be there. So I saw a table with only 4 people sitting there, and then there was like 6 other place settings that weren't used. And I sat myself down at one of those, and you know, the people sitting at the table really looked a bit suspicious, like I'd crashed the party. And they asked me about what I was doing there, who I am, and I just had this alter ego that I was just making reviews about the events at the Cannes Film Festival. So, you know, I'm not pretending to be an actress or anything. And so they were like, oh, okay. And I ate the most beautiful dessert because I only made it in time for dessert. Then I literally was on the way to the bathroom, and I literally bumped into, I think it was like the ex-chairman of the Cannes Film Festival. And, you know, really old guy, old French guy. And he literally handed me like 4 tickets because he said, I've been doing this for so many years and my wife is tired of the bright lights. That's what she said. So here you go. I've got these extra tickets. So he literally gave me these extra tickets. Anyways, from then on, I also made it to Amphar. I was on super yachts with Pharrell Williams and Kanye West, and I met this girl who was like a socialite, and she was the one who took me to these super yachts and all of that. Anyways, it was a lot of partying, and I was exhausted because I was still working the next day, and I would get home at 5 in the morning and then have to wake up at 7 to be at work at 8. And, you know, it was fine. I was running off adrenaline for pretty much the first week and a half, but those last couple of days, and I didn't want to say no to the socialite friend of mine who I'd met. She would say, Courtney, do you want to come to this party? I can get you tickets. And of course, I'm like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I will be there. But anyways, eventually I had to start saying no. I was so tired of pushing myself to the limit that I started walking into like the side of door frames and forgetting keys and having to walk all the way back like a kilometer to get keys. I was so sleep deprived. And anyways, yeah, so I started saying no, going to any more parties, but yeah, I decided no, there's a bit of it's a lot of partying, drugs, and I am not into drugs at all, and I just couldn't be a part of that whole atmosphere. Late nights, early mornings, it just wasn't for me, the film industry. But yeah, as you touched on earlier, that's actually where I discovered yachting. So after the Cannes Film Festival, I didn't have anywhere. Well, I had somewhere to stay, but there was 3 days before I had to go home. And one of my friends, who I knew from school in Johannesburg, was just next door in a town called Antibes, which is a big yachting hub. And he told me all about the yachting industry and over those 3 days. And I'd been on yachts and I knew what to expect, and I saw the crew there. And I love the hospitality industry as well. And just knowing that there was so much routine, it was also amazing. And I decided there and then that I was going to when I go back to South Africa, I'm going to do my yachting courses. And yeah, the next year I had I flew back to Cannes, and actually in Cannes, I got a job in 2 days, and the rest was history. It was 6 years. I was in the yachting industry for 6 years, working my way up from 35-meter uh, charter yachts to 85-meter charter yachts. Working for people who you don't even know their names because they're that wealthy. You think Beyonce is wealthy and Kanye West is wealthy, but you start to see a whole other world of people who you have no idea who they are, and they are actually really, really wealthy. So, and I felt it was so interesting for me working with such high achievers and working for such high achievers. I was really interested in their habits and their conversations and how did they get to where they are. And yeah, so the yachting industry mixed with having this close eye on personal development and mindset and habits was the perfect match for me. And I always say that I'd probably still be in the yachting industry if it wasn't for my now husband, who, kind of reined me in and said, Courtney, and I did always want to have a family. So I knew it was always going to happen, but I needed someone to give me the push to actually take me back to reality, because yachting, it's not for everyone, but for me, it was incredible. And they actually call it the golden handcuffs as well, because it's that good. It's quite hard to go back to reality, paying for hair shampoo and toilet paper and cooking your own food and washing your own clothes, because on a yacht, you don't pay for a thing. You get your lip balm, your hairbrushes, your anything you need is paid for. You get your lunch and dinner prepared for you by, 7-star chefs. And then you get your laundry packed and delivered to your cabin every day by whoever's in the laundry that week, or that day. So yeah, it's an incredible industry that I highly recommend, but it's not for everyone.
So, what was your life like on the yacht? Were you there like 24/7, or how did that schedule also work?
Yeah, so I worked on a dual season charter yacht, and at the time, when I joined, so between like 2014, 2015, this specific yacht that I'm talking about, because I was in the industry from 2012, this specific yacht was known as one of the most chartered yachts in the Med at the time. And it was very busy. So we were dual season and we had 40 days leave per year, which is really nice. Now, there's something called rotation that's more common, where you work 10 weeks on and you get 10 weeks off. It depends what your position is on board. But for us on this boat, we had 42 days leave per year. And it was super busy, but we would start work if we didn't have a guest trip, start work at 8 and finish work at 5. And then you get a 1-hour lunch break. And work would be pretty much just preparing the boats for guests to arrive on board. And so you would be, I was a stewardess, so we would be cleaning cabins, organizing through all the provisions on board, the wines, inventorying everything. And when I say that something has to be clean, you don't even know clean until you step on a super yacht. There, you're not allowed to have one tiny water drop on the faucet. You can't have one streak, or if you're wiping down a mirror and the light's shining above it and it looks like a little bit cloudy, you absolutely can't have that. It needs to be buffed and shined. So there is not one imperfection on these yachts. So it's nice to know that I can really clean anything. My standards have had to drop a lot since having 2 kids. But anyways, I do appreciate a clean space. Yeah, but then we'd have to go provisioning or use your provisioners and unpack everything on board. The jobs change when there's guests on board, obviously. So then you're actually doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner service, as well as cocktail service in between. If you've got kids on board, then you've also got kids dinner services. It's a constant day of setting tables, clearing tables, resetting tables for lunch, clearing tables for lunch, and doing the same thing for dinner. Then when the guests are finished with dinner, you're obviously clearing that table. And, there's probably 20 candles out with vases to clean. And oh gosh, the decorations are elaborate. We would hang cherry blossom branches from whatever you can find to hang it with on the pool deck. So it was absolutely beautiful. On the boat I worked on, we did a lot of theme nights. So whether it was a Great Gatsby theme night or just red theme night where everyone's wearing red. During the day, if it was red theme night, for example, you'd put a red invitation on the guest bed with like a rose. It was a really beautiful setup. And if you weren't doing guest food or beverage service, you would also be jumping into the cabins. Every time they would walk into their cabin and use the toilet, you would have to go back in there, or you'd radio the crew member who's in charge of cleaning cabins to say that the guest is back on the pool deck or the aft deck, for example, so they can go in and clean, check that, if they've sat on the bed, you make the bed again. If they've used the toilet paper is refolded into a fan. Basically, it looks like the yacht has been untouched during the day, even though there's 12 guests using it all throughout the day, every single room. And there's also that discretion where the guests don't really know that you're around. It's that balance between catering for their every need, even before they ask for it. They don't know that you're around, but somehow they've got everything they need. So you really learn to anticipate people's needs. They'll be on board for 2 days, and you can see, oh, okay, well, every morning Samuel L. Jackson, he'll wake up, come out of his cabin and go pick some fruit off the buffet and have a black Americano coffee. So by the 3rd day, he's done that 2 days in a row. You don't even ask, obviously, if he wants a black Americano coffee. You just hear the cabin door open, and then you're making his coffee, and it's ready for him at the table at the same time as he gets there. So it's a pretty amazing industry, and I learned a lot. And yeah, a lot of skills from there. So our day-to-day very routine, but you work so hard. And then in the med season, it was we would go 3 months without a day off. In the winter season, we would go to Thailand, and you would sometimes get weekends off if there wasn't a trip, and the boat was prepared. But the boat always had to be ready for a last minute charter. And when you did have guests on board, I think we were working um, 14 hours a day with a 2 hour lunch break. Sometimes we it's a bit naughty, but we didn't really get that. It's just part of what happens. So there's a lot of people in yachting who do experience burnout because you work really hard. It's really physical as well, and you're living with the people that you're working with, and you have to know how to manage your emotions, stay level-headed, be calm, and no matter how exhausted you are, you have to show up every day with a big smile on your face and just get the job done. So you definitely it teaches you some grit and a bit of a thick skin too.
So you mentioned Samuel L. Jackson, and in your bio, you mentioned him as well. What was his routine like?
Oh, he was such a simple guy. Um, he didn't even talk much at all. He would just, yeah, wake up in the morning, go to the breakfast buffet, pick on some pre-chopped fruit, and he always had his Kindle in his hand. I always remember that. And then he would just sip his coffee and read his Kindle and wait for the other guests to wake up. And the other guests were Smokey Robinson. We had Tina Knowles, who's Beyonce's mom, on board at the time as well. And they were all there because I think it was Magic Johnson's anniversary, something like that. So it was an awesome bunch of people. But yeah, he was actually I think it was the principal guest, is what you would call him, where I would have to go ask him if he was happy with the lunch menu, the dinner menu, and he was always so happy, super easy, super nice guy, quiet, and really loved to listen to everybody else chat and just read his Kindle. Yeah, he was probably he needed the least out of anyone. He barely asked for anything, and he really appreciated just lying down reading. And that's the thing, these high achievers, they know how to rest. That's what I learned on super yachts. We are so hard on ourselves or I am, when it comes to achieving my goals and working hard and getting everything right. And I don't really rest when I need to, which is something that I, had to learn with almost being burnt out. But yeah, these high achievers, they actually all know how to rest and relax. So it's a lesson that's taken me a while to learn, but you know what? If they do it, then I can do it, can't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any guests that were like regulars, like you'd see them all the time?
Yeah, we had, but they would be regulars as in once a year. So, well, we had the owners of the yacht. So the owner he was a billionaire from the UK. And he was quite interesting because he's like a typical rags to riches story. He's self-made, also just in the right place at the right time. But what we were discussing, where he was prepared, so it looked lucky, but he was actually pretty desperate and he was working hard. He was um selling he had like no other option than someone who approached him to try sell cell phones when nobody used cell phones and nobody was interested in cell phones. And they said, why do I need this? I've got a landline at home, this is just expensive. Anyways, he got onto selling phones when they were just before they were taking off. So yeah, now he's a billionaire. And he was living in a trailer, I think, on a driveway at some point in his life. So it's quite a fun story. And so he was actually quite interesting to work for as well, because even though he was a billionaire, it's just interesting to see how the way you raised affects you in different ways. So, he had to be very cautious not to waste milk growing up, and you would serve him a beautiful pot of Earl Grey tea with this little jug of milk in bed. That's how he'd wake up in the mornings. And then you would be told off if you had filled up the milk jug a little bit too much. And he'd say, because I don't use that much milk for my tea in the mornings, I only want you to fill it up a third, because I know that the rest is just going to go to waste. And that's that kind of mindset from his childhood that still comes into being on a super yacht. He has an amazing business, over 70-meter yacht. That's the most chartered yacht in the Med, and he doesn't want his milk to be filled up too much, because it'll just be a waste of money when the rest gets poured down the drain. Yeah, so that was interesting, but sorry, I think I segued there a little bit to your original question.
That is still very interesting. How long or at what point did you make that transition to go back into writing?
When I was working on yachts, I was always journaling. And then I had so many people talk to me, like multiple messages every day saying, Courtney, please can you tell me, how do you get into yachting? What is it like on yachts? What courses do I need to do? But how do you do the visa situation? Because as a South African, it's not so easy to get yourself to work in Europe or wherever you're trying to find work on a yacht. So I found myself constantly replying to those types of messages. And I just said, you know what, I could have written a book by now, probably 5 books by now, by how much information I've given away. And then I thought, actually, why don't I just write a book? So I wrote a book on yachting in the Mediterranean, a South African's guide. And yeah, so you can still buy that off Amazon. It would definitely be a bit outdated now, because I go really into, what bank accounts to open and visas, and some things have changed since I wrote the book. It's taken a while for people to catch on to the yachting industry. But there's still, what can you expect as a deckhand or as a stewardess, and what courses do you need to do, and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I was still holding on to my passion for writing while I was in yachting. And then after yachting, it's just always been with me with journaling. But then my husband and I, we bought a guest house in Cape Town, and I did some blog posts for that, but very, very chilled, nothing fancy. Then I went back into yachting after a short time, because we immigrated to Portugal, and it was COVID, so people weren't using, people couldn't come stay at the guest house. But it worked out, because we had to get our foot in the door to immigrate to Portugal when we did, because Brexit was going to happen, and we were moving on a British passport, which my husband has. So it gave us the push we needed. But anyways, I very quickly went back into yachting pre-recruitment. And since then, I was ghostwriting some web content copy on for the one agency I worked for. And then the second agency I worked for was, I wrote a series of blog posts for them. And I actually just loved the writing side of it. It was so fun for me. And I thought, how could I continue writing? But, I thought blogging was dead, actually. I never thought people would read blogs, but I've been so pleasantly surprised that that's not the case. And so, yeah, now with writing my blog, it helps me to organize my thoughts because I'm generally, listening to self-improvement podcasts over there and reading my personal development book over there and having an interesting conversation over here. And all the time, I'm making connections in my brain, and having my blog is just such an amazing platform for me to connect the dots and put my thoughts down on paper, and actually have them organized and um, be able to remind myself actually of these lessons I've learned. So yeah, it's come full circle, my writing, but it was with me throughout my time in yachting as well.
So you're not on the yachts anymore, but you're doing recruitment for the yachts. Is that correct?
No, I'm not doing recruitment on yachts either. I'm not on yachts as well. So I was working on yachts as a stewardess. I left as chief stew after 6 years. And then I worked in crew recruitment for 3 years. And now I am writing for the yachting industry. So whether it's for yachting publications like yachting magazines or websites, blog posts, or also for founders who are yachting professionals. I'm doing all of that. Ghostwriting is a lot of fun. Yeah, figuring out because I've got my blog that is my voice and who I am. And
Hmm.
then ghostwriting is an extra skill I've learned when it comes to taking on the voice of someone else, like what words do they use a lot of, and how do they want their brand or business or whatever it is to be perceived. So it's a whole nother range of upskilling my writing, which has been a lot of fun.
Hmm. What could you give us a sneak peek into some of the topics that you talk about on your personal development blog?
Sure, I mainly talk about lifestyle design, mindsets, and habits. And I do touch on visualization and manifestation, which are all the things that I love to talk about and have seen in my own life work. So those are the main topics.
So, how do we create our ideal life based off of our lifestyle design?
Yeah, so going back to when I was speaking about journaling being the greatest return on investment, in my opinion, I think it takes some time to sit down with yourself and figure out actually what do you really want? And if money wasn't a factor, what would you do for your business? And I've always, and I'm sure you have to, always known about that question, but I always answered it realistically, thinking like, okay, you know what? I could probably do this because it would be fun and I would succeed at that. But one day, I just was completely honest with myself when I was journaling. And I said, you know what? I would love to just write and work on becoming a better person, read personal development books, listen to the podcasts, and share what I've learned along the way, as well as yeah, just if money wasn't a factor, that is exactly what I want to do with my day. And the umbrella of that is having freedom of time to do what I want. So anyways, I always tend to work backwards from there. So I thought, okay, I like to work. I don't like to just sit and do nothing all day. I do want to work, but I only want to work for like 3 hours a day. And on something that I absolutely love, like writing. But
Mhm.
how can you work 3 hours a day writing? And it sounds so simple now, but it really, when you don't know, it's you don't know what you don't know. So it was actually really tough to figure out, oh, you can make a career of writing just 3 hours a day about things that you absolutely love to talk about, like personal development and the yachting industry. And so then I figured out, okay, so now I know how to make a living just working 3 hours a day. And now I can use that extra time in my day to better myself, to read those books. And I think lifestyle design is all about not waiting 10 years until you're earning X amount of income to enjoy your life. It's how can you work backwards from your ideal day and start to take steps now? What can you do to get you closer to your ideal lifestyle? And what I did in this journaling session is I wrote until I couldn't write anymore about every single detail I could when it came to what is my ultimate life. What does my ideal day look like? And I wrote that, I would wake up at, before the family woke up, and I'd journal, meditate, have a quiet coffee, and then we'd all have breakfast together and get the kids ready for school. And then during the day, I would have 3 hours of doing deep work. And after that, I could spend some time journaling, reading my like personal development book or however I wanted to spend my time. And I looked at this page and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a highlighter and actually highlight all the things I can start doing pretty much today or tomorrow. And
Mhm.
I had a pink highlighter and I just started highlighting like I could wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. I could have a quiet coffee and journal on my own before the family wakes up. I could do 3 hours of deep work writing tomorrow. I could, read my book. And I thought, why am I waiting until I earn, for example, $10,000 a month to be able to have that lifestyle? And
Mhm.
that was a huge aha moment for me. And now I really believe that if anyone else was trying to design their ideal lifestyle or their ideal day, sit down and write out everything you would do in your ideal day and see what can you actually start doing right away? What can you do tomorrow? Because you're probably 70% closer to being that ideal person and with that ideal life than you think you are. You don't need to earn a certain amount of money and wait all those years before you can start actually living a lot closer to this ideal lifestyle. And so I've worked that out into my own day-to-day life, and I'm loving life. I'm loving it. So it really works, but you have to really know what you want, and that can take some time. And it's especially tricky to know what you want when you don't know what you want. And that's a whole nother segue, which it was kind of like me. I knew what I liked. I didn't know that I had a passion. I knew my passion was personal development. I knew that I liked writing. I knew that I liked the yachting industry, but it's hard to connect those dots when you really don't know where to start. So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know how to achieve, how to work towards your goals because you don't actually know what your dream is, that was an article I wrote actually for what helped me
Mhm.
work towards my goals without actually knowing what is the job that will provide me with that goal. So it was quite a lot of insights, and I felt like I learned a lot working with myself in that way.
Mhm. Have you read The Greatness Mindset?
I haven't, it's on my reading list. Oh,
It's funny because you brought up the perfect day, and that's one of the first chapters is Lewis Howes talks about that. So I was curious. I was because you love personal development, and we actually met through a Lewis Howes post. I was very curious if that's what, you read that, and that's actually something that I've done is I went in and I did that exact same thing. Is I just made this itinerary. What would a perfect day look like? But not necessarily. You have to pick a time frame too. It can't just be any time. So for me. I just picked a time 5 years from now because I wanted to dream, but I also want to be realistic and not consider because I wanted to consider those obstacles and those challenges too, because I have a family too. I've got 3 kids in 5 years. What are they going to be doing? I can't just neglect them and just focus on, ooh, me, 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 because family is important. So in that itinerary, there has to be family oriented things too. And so it helped me kind of narrow down, hey, this is what an ideal day would look like. And then just like you did, start. Like you have the ability to create that. And if you start now and you look at that, highlight that, whatever, hey, I could do this, which is why I ended up, I think, really pushing through to focus on my podcast and actually s- because that was something that I could see myself doing 5 years from now, still doing all of this.
Exactly, exactly. It's a really powerful exercise. I was like blown away with everything, like how pink my page was with that highlight of everything I could start doing right away. And I think it's such an important exercise for anyone who's after their goals to actually realize that, you're probably more successful than you think. Get out of your
Mhm.
mind a little bit and put it on paper and see what you discover about yourself and your day.
You mentioned that one of the topics that you talk about is visualization. How do you incorporate visualization in your life?
So I actually do I do something called inner sizes, which are, like exercises, but for your brain. And that's it's from Neurogym. I don't know if you know about Neurogym, but anyways, it was a pretty pricey investment. And you get these pretty much like audio meditations, but they use a bunch of tools within them. So hypnosis, visualization, affirmations, and then certain frequencies like hertz that goes more into your subconscious. And so there's like these like four different things that you are listening to, and you close your eyes and you visualize, and it can be like 30 minutes, some of them are 40 minutes, but most days I will do that in the evenings with a cup of herbal tea, and I'll just close my eyes and listen to my inner size. And yeah, the key is to really get emotionally engaged in what you're listening to. So before, I would just visualize without having, this program that I purchased, and which I love so much. And it was very pricey when I bought it, but they just released an app, so it's a lot cheaper now. But I'm a huge fan, and it's a part of my day now to sit and listen to these affirmations. And then but it's nice to also have time to thinkitate, which is like thinking meditation.
Mhm.
So I don't really meditate. I do more visualization with these inner sizes and audios. And then I thinkitate, whereas you just kind of sit and you close your eyes, and it's best to do it after you've spent time visualizing or meditating because your brain is relaxed. But you just sit and you figure out, these problems in your life, or you just try to make your own solutions. And we're so quick to Google an answer to maybe an issue we have, or what is someone doing to deal with the situation on Reddit or Quora or something like that. But actually, you'll be amazed at the solutions you can discover when your eyes are closed. And yeah, so uh, visualization and thinkitation are two big things that I do daily.
That is something new to me. Thinkitate. I've never heard of that. Is
I,
this
I,
is
I didn't make up that word, even. It's actually a word. I think, Vishen Lakiani from Mind Valley. He founded Mind Valley, and he, I think, coined that term in one of his books.
Mm,
I
okay.
could be wrong, but I didn't make up that word. It sounds a bit lame.
Is the app is that still called NeuroGym?
Yeah, the company is NeuroGym, and the meditations are called inner sizes.
Okay. So now that we're getting to the end of the podcast, I have three questions which I ask all the guests, which is over the topics of the podcast, which is live, love, and grow. So the first question I have for you is, what advice can you share about how to create a life that leaves a positive impact on the world?
Oh, I would just say, one of my favorite quotes is, why are we born an original but die a copy? So I would
Ooh.
just say to live true to who you are. And even if you seem like you feel like you're a little bit strange, or different, that's the beauty of being uniquely you. It's no one should be comparing themselves because they aren't you. Even if you have the same career goals, you've got a different childhood, you've got a different family members, you've got, you could be caring for elderly parents or you could have a newborn baby. No one should compare. You should just focus on your own journey and be unique to who you are and make that shine. And I think that's like the greatest gift you can give the world, because I also believe if something resonates with you, it's definitely going to resonate with someone else. So just be true to who you are, and put yourself out there to, yeah, find people who are interested to hear what you have to say.
Mhm. What are some practical ways people can cultivate self-love?
I think if you struggle with self-love, I would say that you kind of have to fake it till you make it a little bit. So what I mean by that is, even if you don't feel like you deserve to have a nice, like, bubble bath with a little glass of wine and read a book or listen to a podcast in the bubble bath, just ignore how you feel about yourself and just go do that. Just go have a bubble bath with some nice music and a book or whatever you need. Whether you feel like you don't deserve or want to wear some nice clothes, just ignore how you feel and start wearing some nice clothes. And eventually, you're going to start proving to yourself that it actually does feel nice, and your body is going to remember that you do love it. And eventually, if you keep just overriding how you feel with the actions that you do, then I think eventually your mind will start connecting, and you'll start to love yourself. You just have to push through, forget how you feel, just do the thing, and then, the feelings will come with loving yourself.
Mhm. I think the closed aspect is interesting because there's a term called enclosed cognition, which is the idea that what you wear affects how you feel, which is
Mhm.
why what was I think it was Lululemon, why they became so popular with the yoga pants is because women, when they started wearing it, they actually started feeling like they were healthier and that they were more active, and because they felt that way, they actually started making decisions that reflected that feeling as well.
That's exactly it. I totally believe that.
So my final question for you is, what is one actionable tip someone can do today to grow 1% better?
Oh, I feel like the ultimate self-improvement tip, the number one tip should be get more sleep. And it's ironic for me to say that because I'm a parent whose baby, I don't know how many times she woke up last night because she's getting 10 new teeth, it feels like, all at the same time. But get more sleep. I think, it's 7 to 8 hours of sleep, improve your sleep hygiene. There's no point trying to biohack and do, obviously it's so nice to get sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning and delay your caffeine intake and then take this much magnesium this many hours before bed and really start complicating things. There's really no point doing any kind of like biohacking or self-improvement hacking if you haven't got the basics right. Only once you've got
Hmm.
the basics right, you should take things a step further. So I feel like the self-improvement space can be a bit overwhelming in that sense, but actually just to make sure you're getting better sleep because having a lack of sleep has a ripple effect into every other part of your day. Whether that's the food you eat, you'll get more processed food, easy, quick food if you haven't slept that night. It's harder to make good decisions if you haven't slept well. So literally, I'm a firm believer that if you can get good sleep, that is the number one tip for improving your life today because everything else improves from there or is affected from there, from lack of sleep.
Hmm. How can people connect with you?
I'm mainly active on LinkedIn. Um, you won't really find me on Instagram. I don't have TikTok or Snapchat. I do have X or Twitter, but I'm not super active on it. I'd like to get more active, but definitely LinkedIn. I'm posting almost every day there, and I share all self-improvement tips, strategies, lessons I've learned, more of my story. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn, so definitely find me over there.
How can people support you on your journey?
Oh, thank you. No, I mean, just as cliche as it is to say, just be yourself. And I think that's the best way to support everyone. And if you really did want to, you could follow me on LinkedIn and see some posts I'm sharing. And I'd love to hear from you. I reply to everyone, and I love building those connections. So I find it a lot of fun being on that platform, and I've been making loads of new friends. So yeah, those would be the two ways.
Great. Well, it was great having you on here, Courtney. I learned a lot. I'm super curious about the yacht industry now, and I feel like I want to go get on a yacht now. Um, so thank you for being here and teaching us what it is you do. And I hope that people follow you and learn not just about yachting, but follow you on your personal development journey as well.
Thank you so much, Matt. I had a great time chatting with you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to live, love, and grow to be the best version of you. Oh, and one more thing. If you or a young man that you know suffer from victim mindset or are not reaching their fullest potential, then visit mattfendora.com to see how we can work together to become the best version of ourselves. That's mattfendora.com. The link will be in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you and have an outstanding day.